Hello everyone, this is Varsha and welcome to Programming Knowledge. So in today's tutorial, we will understand about the architecture of Git. Also, we're going to install the hyperterminal. I'm going to explain you how to install the hyperterminal. Also, we're going to know about the GitKraken. What is it and how is it used? I will explain you that also. So let's get started. Okay, so before we start the architecture of Git, in the previous tutorial, we learned how to actually commit a file, how to push a particular file into our repository, GitHub repository. So just like have a quick demo of it. So what I'm going to do is right now, let's create a file in F drive. Okay, so I'm creating a new folder over here and I will name it as test repo. Okay, and we are using the git bash, so I'm going to right click over here, and here there comes an option of git bash. Here I click git bash. So this is our account, our GitHub account. So first we will create a repository over here. So I'm creating a new repository. I will name it as repo and click on create repository. I have explained in detail how to create a repository in the previous tutorial. I'm just giving a quick recap of what we learned. So this is the git bash command that we have over here, the terminal we have. So here first we'll create a folder. So to create a folder, we will write touch and file 1.txt. And our folder is created over here. This is the folder that is created. Now once the folder is created, let's see the status of it. So let's write git status. I have explained in detail about all these commands in the previous tutorial. If you want, I will give the link of the previous tutorial in the description box. You can have a look at it. Now the git status says that it is not a git repository. So if you want to push any file to the git repository, you need to first turn the folder to the git repository. So for that, first we're going to write git init. And it says that initialize empty git repository in the folder. So now here you see we have a .git folder, and if you can't see, you can go on view and here you can tick on the hidden items. Once you tick, you can see that there is .git folder over here, which means that this folder, this test repo folder, is now a Git repository. Okay, so once you have written git init, now let's see the status again. So I'm going to write git status, and here it says on branch masters. Here there are two files, that is the untracked files and the tracked files that is there. I explained in detail about it in the previous tutorial. So it's better that you go and watch the tutorial. So now this is the untracked files that we have. We need to track it. So how do we track it? For that, there's a command which says git add, and I'm going to write a dot, which means all the files that is present in this folder, that is the test repo folder, will be tracked. But if I want to track a particular file, so I'll just write file1.txt and press enter, and there you see. Let's write git status, and there you can see that it is turned in green now, and it says no commits, yes, changes to be committed. Now this is a tracked file now, and this was the untracked file, that is the file1.txt, which was in red color, and now it's in green color. Okay, so now this file has been tracked. After it's tracked, let's commit this file. So I'm writing git and commit, git commit and -m, and here I'm going to write first commit. So here it says that the file is being committed. It says one file change, 0 insertions, 0 deletions. Okay, now we have committed this file with a message. I have written the message over your first commit. After commit, we are going to write git remote, and after remote, we're going to write add origin, and here we're going to place the HTTP. This is the HTTPS link that we have, right? This URL needs to be placed over here. So I'll place this and press enter. So now we can push our file. For that, we can write git push and -u origin master. And there you see our file is being pushed. So let's check this out now. and there you see we have file1.txt. Okay, so this is the entire process which we learned in the previous tutorial. This is what we learned. Now let's understand about the architecture of the Git. Now this is the entire architecture of Git. You can say that this is the entire life cycle of a file that is present in the folder. The Git folder that we created in the F drive, right? The folder test repo, and there was a file 1.txt that was present right now, and we were writing git add, and we were committing it, we were pushing it, right? So this is the entire life cycle of a file, but also this is the Git architecture that we have. Okay, so now we have the working directory first, then we have the staging area or the cache area, then we have the local repository or the committed area, and then we have the remote repository. So our main target is to move our files from the local repository to the remote repository. Okay, this is the main target that we have. The remote repository is the GitHub repository that we have. This is the GitHub repository. This is the GitHub repository, right? This is the repo repository that we have. So our main target is that we need to move our files to this repository. Over here, the life cycle goes this way, that we have first the working directory, we have the staging area, we have the local repository or the committed area, and then the remote repository. So when our file, that is the file1.txt, is in the working directory, we are working on it. Okay, so what was the first command that we wrote? Do you remember? The first command was the touch file.txt, that is, we created a file. After that, we wrote git status, in which it said that it is not a Git repository. The folder is not a Git repository. After that, we saw that once the folder is not a Git repository, we wrote git init, and after writing git init, it showed that the folder is now a Git repository. After knowing that it is a Git repository, we wrote git add. Do you remember? We wrote git add. That is, we were adding the files to the staging area, from the working directory to the staging areas. Before, the file was untracked, but by writing git add, the files became tracked and it came to staging area or the cache area. So once it is staged in the staging area, after that we committed it to the local repository or the committed area. For that, we have written git commit -m, and there was a message, that is the first commit message that we had written over here. After it goes to the committed area, we need to move it to the remote area. To moving into the remote area, we say that we need to push a file to the remote repository. For that, we write git push -u origin master. Okay, so this is the entire process. Similarly, if you want to pull, what we'll do is we go to the remote repository, we write a pull command, and our file is pulled to the local repository. Okay, so this is the entire working area or the working life cycle of a file. First, it is in the working directory, then it goes to the staging area. After going to the staging area, it goes to the local repository or the committed area, and then it goes to the remote repository. So this is the entire architecture of Git. Now, since we are done with the architecture of Git, let's install the hyperterminal. Now you must be thinking, what is hyperterminal? Like, for example, when we code a program for Python, we use a PyCharm, right? So when we code a program for Java, we use Eclipse or IntelliJ IDE. So these are different IDEs, right? Similarly, for terminals, we have the CMD, that is the basic terminal. We have Git Bash. We have a hyperterminal also. There are many differences between the Git Bash and the hyperterminal. Okay, and hyperterminal is mostly used by many of the developers also nowadays, because hyperterminal comes up with a lot of customization. Like, you can have plugins, you can have so many things. It is highly customizable regarding the format, the font size, the font color. Also, it has a lots of themes, like in Visual Studio, right, you have a lot of theme, like it should be dark, light. So you have so many themes in hyperterminal. Also, compared to the Git Bash, the hyperterminal is quite fast. Okay, so I would recommend you to use the hyperterminal, but if you are comfortable with the Git Bash terminal, then go for it. The commands won't change. Like, similarly, you write a program, it is system.out.println in IntelliJ IDEA or in Eclipse is the same, right? Similarly, the commands won't change, but the terminal that I'm using is the hyperterminal for the entire tutorial. And if you want, you can use the Git Bash terminal. There are no issues. So let's move to the installation part. So if you're installing Hyper, I will give the link in the description below so you can have a look at it. If you click on that link, you will be navigated to this page. Now, if you're having Mac OS, click on this. If you have Windows, click on this. So I'm having Windows, so I will be clicking on this version. So now here you can see that the Hyper setup, that is exe file, is being downloaded over here. So I will now click over here. Okay, so this is the Hyper terminal that you have over here. It is similar to the Git bash, but it has a lot of features as compared to Git bash. So I would recommend to download the Hyper terminal, but if you're really comfortable with the Git bash, you can go with it. So this is the Hyper terminal that you have. Now there's one thing that you need to do. So now if you're a Mac OS user, you don't really need to do this, but if you're using Windows, you need to change the log file, that is the config file over here. So for that, you need to go to Edit, go on Preferences, and over here just Control A and delete the entire thing. Now I will be giving this link of a GitHub account. You need to copy this entire log file that you have over here, and you need to paste it over there. This is for the Windows users only. So I will copy this and paste it over here and Control S. I'll close this now, and I will close this as well now. Okay, so here you can see we have installed the Hyper terminal. So this is the folder that we created, the test repo folder. If I right click here, I can see that Open Hyper here. So I'll click on Open Hyper here. So now if I right touch file2.txt, and then if I write git status, here it says on branch master, your branch is up to date, but there is an untracked file over here. So now if I write git add and a dot, so all the files are tracked. If I write git status again, and that says that changes to be committed. Now if you want to commit it, you can write git commit and -m, and after that your commit message, that is the first commit or something, whatever you want to write, you can write over here. After committing, we can add a remote origin, and after writing a remote origin, we have to push the file. So this is the entire process. You can use the entire process in the Hyper terminal as well. If you're using the Git bash, it's the same process. If you're using the Hyper terminal, it's the same process. So once you have downloaded the Hyper terminal, now if you did not download the Git, you need to download the Git also. So this is the link of the Git. I have downloaded already before. You must have seen the downloading the installation tutorial before that I had given. In that tutorial, I had already downloaded Git. So if you have not, you can download it. We have the Mac OS, we have the Linux, and we have Windows also. So this is the link of it. I will give the link of this in the description box as well. Okay, so this is all for the installation part for the Hyper terminal. And now coming to the next software, that is the GitKraken. Now see, here I have a very nice Git GUI tool. Now you must be thinking, what is this GitKraken? Why is it used? How is it used and stuff? Let me tell you that the reason why we are using the GitKraken is that there is so much in it. Like, it really speeds up the workflow. In addition, also there are a lot of boards. It actually gives a visualization of Git that we're using. In Git, there are a lot of concepts like branching and log and stuff, and merging your files and push and pull. And also when you're working in a community, when you're a software developer in a company, you work with a lot of people. So who is pushing the code, who is pulling the code, who is who is editing the code, who is doing what at what time, you get to know everything visually. Like here you can see, this is the dashboard that you can see, right? So these are the dashboard which shows the visualization of the entire. There is a local, remote, pull requests. There are 93 pull requests that were done. Also there is local, remote, and issues that were raised. Also now if you have like a GitHub account, you have a GitLab account, you are using the Jira software, you're using the Trello, you're using Jira Cloud. Also there are so many things you need to integrate all these, right? So you can integrate all these things also in the software. Now see, let me open it. I have downloaded already. I really like the GUI of this software, so I would recommend you, if you're working as a software professional in a company, you can use this. Okay, so this is the entire GUI that you can see over here. Now, if you have hosted repositories like the GitHub or the GitHub, the GitLab, or the Big Bucket, or any of thing that you're using, you can use it over here. You can open a repository, you can clone a repository, you can start a local repository, and also there are a lot of tutorials regarding this on YouTube. So you can use this tutorial, you can use the software efficiently while you're working in a company. So let me show you the dashboard of this. Like, I already have a screenshot of some dashboards. Like here you can see there is an entire dashboard visualization of everything, like who is merging the code, who is using the code, who is actually fixing the bugs and stuff. So you can have this entire visualization by using this GitKraken software. Also, there are a lot of things like what are the changes needed, what are in progress, what are the pull requests made, the completed things that we have done, who has completed and what has completed, what projects has been completed. Also, there is a lot of documentation, updated list. You can see there are so many people added over here. So these are the GitKraken boards that you can use while using this software. So there's a lot of advantage of using this software, and that's the reason why I actually introduced this software. Now, this is all for this tutorial, and in the next tutorial we're going to learn something different. So stay tuned, and please like, share and subscribe this video, and also ring the bell icon so that you don't miss out any of the updates. Thank you.